So are you ready to PR yourself? We'll remove the mystery from all things PR, and we'll discuss everything from our top strategies to tips and tricks and everything that you can utilize to further enhance your brand or your message. I've been in media, I'm a journalist, and I'm also a publicist. I am Leah Frazier, CEO of Think3 Media, and your host for PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. Let's go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. You guys, listen, you guys are blowing my mind. We just received notification that this podcast is in the top 30, number 29 actually, in the US for marketing podcasts and in the top 100 in Canada for marketing podcasts. So thank you to each and every one of you faithful listeners. Thank you guys for sharing this out. Thank you for interacting with me. Thanks for sharing it on social media. We're just extremely grateful that this project has reached the levels that it has in such a short period of time. So thank you again. And I want you guys to just get interactive. Go on pryourselfwithleahfrazier.com. Leave me a message and let me know if you have an episode suggestion or there's something going on with your business that you want me to bring in the experts to help and tell you how to PR it better. Again, get involved. You're going to go to the link in my bio at the Leah Frazier on Instagram, and I have a whole list of things you can do. You can join our private Facebook group. In that group, I go live. I tell you what's hot and trending in social media and marketing and PR. I put media leads in there. There's one I've got to do today. And you're also going to want to interact with the other women. And I think we have some men in that community now, in that private Facebook community, okay? Because I'm going to start growing that so that you guys can discuss among yourselves how to PR yourselves better as we move through 2021 and beyond. Also, if you're interested, we still have the monthly membership available. It's only $49 a month, and you can find information on that at think3media.com/think3edu. That is our monthly membership where I literally do a class session like I would teach with my students at the university. I do a class session on what's hot in marketing and public relations. I give you your takeaways. I give you something to work on for 30 days. And then several weeks later, we come back and we mastermind as a group to make sure that we're working on that one thing that you need to get worked on for that month. And we continue that monthly. And it's a great resource and it's a great way, an affordable way for you to hear from me. I bring in experts and also for you to have accountability. That way you're working through for solutions for your small business or as an entrepreneur. And lastly, you're going to want to stay tuned. Yes, pryourselfbook.com. You're going to want to sign up for that as we get closer to the book being released. But also you're going to want to go to PR Yourself with leahfrazier.com online. There's a tab called course, and you're going to want to sign up there because I am re-releasing my live course one last time. I know I said that before. I'm going to do it again. I have just revised it. I've created a couple more modules, and it's really going to go into a little bit more of an organized depth on how you can earn free media and press coverage consistently for your small business and your brand. And again, it's super duper affordable, and I want to offer that to you guys. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And enjoy this latest episode, and I look forward to hearing from you all. Welcome back to another episode of PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I have an amazing guest for you guys. I have been excited all day. I'm not even going to lie to you. I am going to bring on Mike Deeson. Now, listen, it says 12-time Emmy winning investigative reporter, but yes, 12-time winning, but nominated 40, or was it over 40 times?
Yeah. I lost more than I won.
It does not matter. It's the nomination that counts. That means you did a bang up job. This is just,
I was very fortunate. I
mean, look at this. The only broadcast journalist in the state to be honored by the Society of Professional Journalists as the Florida Journalist of the Year. We talked about more than 40 nominations for Emmy Awards. I mean, 2015 Influence magazine named you as one of the 100 most influential people affecting Florida politics. I mean, you have a wealth of knowledge. We're going to get into some very interesting topics today. So I'm so excited. So welcome to my show, Mike Deeson.
I'm thrilled to be here with you, Leah. I truly am.
How's everything going?
Life is great. I retired from the TV station 4 years ago, and I have never worked harder in my life since then. Um, I started an investigative documentary company, and I've done a bunch of documentaries. I wrote a book, did an Audible. I'm doing a radio show every week, and involved in a bunch of other projects. So I have no free time, but it's great.
Well, I'm glad you opened up some free time for me today. I have a question, like, what is life after like news for you? Were you scared to start your own thing?
Well, it was time. I had been at that TV station 35 years, and news has changed so much. And they wanted different types of stories than what I thought were important investigations. You see it across the country. Now, Dallas has some pretty good investigative reporters, but the TV stations shift to more personality type of stories. They want to know what's going on. Listen, I like Taylor Swift's music, but I never would want to do a story about Taylor Swift. Unless she was caught with the governor doing something crazy, but or accused Cuomo of doing something. I don't know. But no, what I'm saying is everything had changed, and I had a wonderful career. And when I retired, I was 68. So and I was planning a trip to Africa. It just seemed like the right time. And then I knew I wanted to finish the book I'd been working on, and I knew I wanted to do an investigative documentary company. So you got to pull the plug at some point. Nothing lasts forever.
And so how are things working out now? Because I mean, you've been an investigative journalist for a while. You've transitioned that into a company, and you even do investigative documentaries. So I'm thinking that's kind of a smooth transition. You still get to do what you love.
I did a bunch. I finished a 2-year project about elephants being abused in circuses. I went all around the country. It really is frightening. People think because Ringling went out of business that there aren't any more traveling elephants, but there are, and they get abused. We had some incredible undercover video. I didn't shoot it, but I talked to the people who did shoot it. And to watch an elephant get beaten with a bull hook just makes, I had seen it hundreds of times, because when you edit, you see that. And I'm glad to say, have not become desensitized. I jump every time I see that happen. They are treated horribly. They're locked up and chained 19 hours a day, except when they either are transported in very tiny railroad cars or trailers. And elephants are meant to roam wild, and I saw that in Africa. And so I was really pleased with that. I'm starting a project now called Can't Convict a Cop. And basically what I'm doing is gathering video from the police shootings in various localities, and then getting ready to talk to the family members who will talk to me of the people who lost loved ones. But it's almost impossible to convict a cop. We'll see what happens in Minneapolis, but because of the implied immunity of police officers. And people have seen a lot of these videos, but I don't think anybody has ever compiled a bunch of them into an hour-and-a-half documentary. And when you see the shooting after shooting after shooting, it just is mind-boggling. And people need to see this, and we need to change the way we approach police shootings. So anyway, that's what is keeping me busy these days.
But I want to ask you a question because of your career, and then, like you were saying, the documentary, The Elephants, and now you're transitioning into the police beatings, and it's just it's a topic that is emotional. It's hard to watch. When you and I were conversing through email prior, we were talking about executions you've also witnessed during your career. So like, how do you mentally do that, Mike?
Well, it's funny. I saw a number of executions, a bunch in the electric chair, and then lethal injection. The electric chair was macabre. I must tell you that. And the first time I saw an execution in the electric chair, I was really nervous and concerned about how I would be affected. But I've got to tell you, um, I had a tougher time covering the murder scenes of the people who were the victims of the person who was executed than watching the executions. I found one of the most upsetting things to me would be at a murder scene where there's crime tape and an unsuspecting relative comes up, and then a police officer has to put his arm around that person and say your loved one has just been murdered. And
Mm,
the wails of sorrow and sadness would give me nightmares. And
mm,
then covering the court trial to have it go again and again would give me nightmares. The executions, for some reason, didn't. And I know that that's very bizarre. But and particularly with the lethal injections. There, it was very perfunctory and sterile, where the person who was going to be executed was lying on a gurney and would go to sleep. One of the executions on lethal that I saw involved a guy by the name of Newton Slauson, and I got called out to that murder the night where he killed his next door neighbors with a knife, cut one of the women who was pregnant's belly, killed a
mm.
kid, and I knew a lot of cops, because you work in a market that long doing stories, and they said it was the bloodiest scene they had ever encountered in their life. That one gave me nightmares. When he was executed, and he quit fighting his execution, he was on a gurney and he went to sleep. So I don't know. It did not bother me. Maybe there's something wrong with me, but
No.
every person that I saw executed, there was no question that they did it. In fact, one of the guys I saw executed was a guy by the name of Gerald Eugene Stano, and I did a prison interview with him, a contact interview. You weren't behind a glass. We spent an hour talking, and during the interview, we could not talk about his case because it was on appeal. He had come within 8 hours of an execution, and the Supreme Court stated. But we talked about his head being shaved because he was electrocuted, about his final meal, his thoughts and everything. And he kept saying during the interview, and they were gonna execute an innocent man. They're gonna execute an innocent man. And then when we finished, when we do what's called the cutaways, that's where you see the
Hmm.
reporter over the guy's shoulder. I said to him, okay, I want to ask you one question. And depending on your answer, if you can give me a satisfactory answer, I promise I will do a story once a week until you are freed or executed. And he said, yeah, sure. What do you want to know, Mike? I said, if you are innocent, as you've proclaimed the past hour, how did you lead the police to 30 of the 35 bodies of the women that they said that you murdered? And his verbatim response was, Mike, that's a problem. And my response to him was, I used profanity, which I won't hear, but
No,
I
you
said,
can.
yeah, oh, I can't.
Yeah, you can.
You don't mind? All
No,
right.
I don't mind.
All right. Here was my verbatim response. No shit, Jerry. That's a big fucking problem. I mean, we didn't put that on the air, obviously, because I promised I wouldn't. But so, when I saw him executed, this guy had murdered all these women. So I didn't feel bad. Now, this guy, he was the most frightened inmate that I've ever seen. I saw some inmates that just seemed resigned to the fact that they were going to die. Let me explain how it worked with the electric chair. You're
Yeah.
sitting there in a witness room. There's about 4 rows of plastic chairs, and then there is a window which maybe was, I don't know, 4 to 5 feet in front of me, and about 2 feet in front of the people in the first row. And then a curtain opens up. You sit there for, I don't know, 20 minutes. And then a curtain opens up, and there is the electric chair and no inmate. And then a door opens up and guards bring the inmate slowly in. And on the top of his shaved head is a gel, like almost like blue toothpaste to
Mm,
conduct the electricity.
mm,
And then they put him in the chair, they strap him in with his arms, his legs, put the thing on his head. The warden says, "Do you have any last words?" And then if the inmate says whatever he's going to say or he doesn't, they drop a hood over his head. The warden then, who is on the phone to the governor, just in case the governor grants a last minute reprieve, and the
mm,
governor doesn't, he nods his head yes, and then you see the inmate grab the chair as the electricity goes through him, and
mm.
then a doctor comes out, listens to him, and pronounces him dead. And then this is sort of bizarre, and I don't know, it's probably sacrilegious, but this is the way I am. At the end of every execution, then a bailiff comes to the microphone and goes, in Stano's case, the state of Florida has carried out its execution of Gerald Eugene Stano at 9:10 on whatever the date it is, and he goes, please exit to the left. And they do that every time. And I almost had the feeling, after I'd seen it several times, that when they go, please exit to the left, it's like a Disney thing where another group is going to come in.
That's what I was just about to say. Like, this seems like the theater, or like it's a full production. Like, do you have our run of show? Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna open the curtains at this time. Make sure everyone is seated. Do you have your popcorn?
That's really, and then I expected to go into the souvenir shop, like they
Oh
show
my
you on the roller
God.
coaster screaming and everything. I mean, that's horrible. But every time they did it, and by the end of the last execution, I was just waiting for the bailiff to say it and going, please don't laugh, Mike. Please don't laugh. You just saw a guy executed. But anyhow,
I just find this so fascinating because many of us will go through our entire lifetime and not even know that this is kind of the procedure, or how,
yeah.
you see little snippets on TV, but I would have never have guessed that it was just so blunt. Like,
Uh,
thank you for coming. Not
yeah,
even a
yeah,
thank you, just
that's
exit to the left.
please exit to the left. That's
Don't
the
trip
fun.
on your way out.
That's right. Now, I had another opportunity that I passed up. I was in Saudi Arabia right before the first Gulf War, because it was run out of Central Command, which is here in Tampa, and General Norman Schwarzkopf ran the war, and he was out of here. So a bunch of journalists went over there because there were a lot of troops here. When we were in Saudi Arabia, we were invited one day by the Saudi Arabian government to go downtown to see thieves' hands cut off.
Oh
We
Lord.
passed on that one. That was
Mike,
that
that was
because
too much.
it was too much for me. And I don't have a weak stomach or anything, but that one I decided, yeah, and all of us went, no, we're not going to do that. But that was a really fascinating experience going to Saudi Arabia, and it truly is a different culture where you have the call for prayer 5 times a day over the
Mhm.
loudspeakers, and it was just an amazing trip to go to Saudi Arabia and see our troops over there. They gave us gas gear to carry because this is before the first Gulf War, and they didn't know what Saddam was going to do. So one day we were going out to the middle of the desert to see the Patriot missiles, which were going to defend against the Scud missiles once the war started. And I came downstairs without my gas gear. And everybody from the Tampa Bay media said, Mike, where's your gas gear? Now, this was in December. They had a start date for the war 3 weeks later in January. They actually had a target date. I said, look, guys, the war is not going to start for 3 weeks. The gas gear weighs a ton. It's 115 degrees in the desert. I am not going to schlep this gas gear out there. So everybody goes, Mike, you're so smart. They all took their gas gear back to their room. So we're now out in the middle of the desert, and we're in a tent. And there's a captain explaining to us how the Patriot missiles will work over the loudspeakers. I don't know if you ever saw it on MASH, but they used to, on MASH, they used to go,
Yep.
incoming, incoming. Okay, here
Yep.
they go. And they go, Scud missile alert,
Oh
Scud
my
missile alert.
God.
Well, the captain's doing nothing. So I figure, well, it's just a test. And all of a sudden, a sergeant runs in and he goes, Captain, we're under a Scud missile attack. And the captain looks at us. He says, you all sit tight. I'll be right back. He runs out. There's netting in the tent that we're in. And I see the Patriot missiles getting up to launch position. Then all of a sudden, the sergeant runs in and looks at us all and goes, gas gear, everybody, gas gear.
Oh my God.
So my friends who
It's all
thought
your
I
fault,
was
Mike. It's all your fault.
That's exactly right. I was not really popular then. So what they had us do, they had us serpentine, like a snake, to a bus. They got us to a safe house. And 2 hours later, it turned out that it was a false alert, and everything was cool. What had happened was Israel launched a test missile and forgot to tell the United States, and the war almost started that day. So,
but I bet you took your gas, you sludged your gas stuff around from there on out.
Yeah. So let me tell you one other story about that. My other favorite story about being there is at the time, our station, like a lot of stations in the country, went through a network affiliate change. When I first went to work for the station in the early 80s, we were an ABC affiliate. Then we switched to a CBS affiliate somewhere in the 90s. I can't remember when. Anyhow, we were an ABC affiliate at the time. Now, there's a 12-hour time difference. So I was doing phoners back to the station and all that stuff. We had no sleep. And an associate producer for Nightline calls me. And she says, we heard about the incident with the Patriot missiles today, and the war almost started. We want the video for Nightline. I said, fine. She said, but there's no uplink in Riyadh where you are. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to rent a car, drive across the desert to Bahrain so we can upload the video there. And I said to her, lady, I'm a little Jewish kid. I'm Jewish. I'm in an Arab country where war is about to break out. There is no way in hell I am going to drive across the desert in the middle of the night so you guys can have video. She said, well, Ted really wants it, meaning Ted Koppel. I said, well, you tell Ted to get his ass on an airplane.
That's what I was about to say.
Put it in his hand. And then, now remember, I've had no sleep at this time, because of the time difference and all. And she said to me, and what kind of reporter do you call yourself? And I lost it. I said to her, I'm the type of reporter that doesn't give a fuck about a little associate producer who thinks she's hot shit working for Nightline. I don't give a fuck about Nightline. I don't give a fuck about Ted Koppel. I don't give a fuck about ABC News. You guys can fuck yourself and have a lovely evening. So about 10 minutes later.
That's how I am when I don't get sleep, Mike.
Yeah.
Or eat.
Right. So I get a call from our assistant news director, who is also Jewish too. So he says to me, ABC called and said you were a little upset. And I said, John, a little upset. This is what they want me to do. And blah, I went through the whole story. He said, fuck them. I said, that's exactly what I told them.
That is insane. How long were you on assignment?
I was there, I was about 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness. At any point throughout all of this, I mean, because through Saudi Arabia, through executions, through any of this, did you think, like, what am I doing?
No, I was born to be a reporter. I loved every minute of it, that I could see things firsthand that people only vicariously could live through me. And so I never passed up an opportunity to do something, even if it was a little bit bizarre or pushed me out of my comfort zone, because I just loved it. I found it fascinating.
But a lot of this, we just don't have the capacity to handle. So, I mean, like, how did you push yourself? Like you said, this is a discomfort. So for a lot of us, I know for myself, when I get a lot of the videos on social media, especially like when the George Floyd video was circulating, it took me a while to bring myself to watch it, because I was doing a lot of the activism work here in Dallas. And I was like, I have to see it.
Good for you.
but it was hard for me. And then it was like the next week something was happening, and the next week. So I'm just like this tiny morsel, and it's like your entire career were witnessing a lot of these things. So how
Well,
did you mentally get through it?
well, especially with the investigations, because that's where I really sunk my teeth in the stories. I felt that it was my obligation to let people know about officials who are breaking the law, enriching themselves. I was crazed. I was a bulldog. In fact, away from a TV camera, I am the most easygoing person in the world. In fact, my kids will tell you when I used to, they're grown now, would discipline them, they'd laugh at me. It was my wife who was the disciplinarian, and my friends who would see me on TV would go, "Who is that guy?" You're not like, but I would get personally offended. Like I did a story, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but it was toward the end where a firefighter stole almost $500,000 from a charity for orphans. I mean, how does someone do
Wow.
that? How does someone do that? It really personally offended me. Happily, what happened was the U.S. Attorney's office, the U.S. Attorney in Tampa, saw my story about it because there wasn't an investigation, and he turned to his staff the next day. He said, "Did anybody see Deason's story last night?" And a couple of them said, "Yeah, they did." He said, "Well, what the hell are we doing about it?" And they said, and he said, "Get the FBI on that case and get that guy." They arrested him. He was convicted and was sent to federal prison. So there was the satisfaction in doing that. But I always confronted a person when I did a story. I would go to the target of the story, and our attorneys hated when we said the target of an investigation, but they were the target. I'm being honest, and I would call them and say, "I'm doing this story. This is what I have. I want to give you an opportunity to respond." Sometimes they would say, "I want to talk to you." Sometimes they go, "No, I have no comment." And my standard line for no comment was, "That's perfectly fine. You can say no comment, but you're going to have to say it on camera." And then I would say, "You have a couple of choices. We can do it in your office, which is your domain, or we can do it on the street, which is my domain. And you can't
Mhm.
say it's an ambush interview because I'll tell you where I'm going to stalk you. I'll tell you where I'm going to show up, and I will stick a microphone in your face, and you'll have to say no comment to me." And so I always got the bad guy on camera, and it was truly satisfying. And that's part of the reason I had a lot of the Emmy nominations, because the judges always like to see that. They do, you
I mean,
know?
and at the end of the day, you got the story, or you got what the people or
Right.
the viewers needed to see.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot
Exactly.
of people that wouldn't have the balls to do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was great. Now, one time, this was wild. I got attacked, and I got very excited when I got attacked because I went, "This is going to be great for the story,"
Oh
and I
my
couldn't.
gosh, you're one of those,
Yeah,
Mike.
but in this particular incident, I couldn't use it in the story. What
Oh,
happened
okay.
was I used some attacks in the story, but on this one, I was doing an investigation of the local OSHA office. There was an internal report that was leaked to me showing that people were not showing up for work, were leaving early, and blah, 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 blah. So I had the whole story put together. And then I had to get pictures of the OSHA employees who were the bad guys to put into the story. So I hung out in the parking garage, public parking garage, where OSHA parked. And what I was going to do is take pictures of anybody that pulled into an OSHA space, and then I would have my source identify who the people were. Well, a guy pulls into an OSHA space, and he gets out of his car and he says, we weren't hiding or anything. He said, "You better not be taking a picture of me." I said, "Well, this is a public garage. I'm sorry." And he says, "I'm warning you, you better not take a picture of me." And he gets louder and louder. And then he takes a briefcase
Oh
to
my
go to
gosh.
hit the camera. Well, at the station, we were always told that the cameras were more important than the reporters because they were expensive. So you had to protect the camera. So I stepped in front of it and got hit in the face with the
Oh,
briefcase. Now,
Mike.
So I'm going, man, this is going to be great.
Are the cameras, were any other additional cameras rolling? Did y'all get this? Did y'all get this?
We got it on camera. No, it was all on camera. So the problem was, as it turned out, because we were able to trace his license plate, he was an undercover DEA agent.
Ooh.
And had he told me that, obviously I didn't want to expose an undercover agent, but he wouldn't tell me that because he had been disciplined before for parking in the OSHA spots, which were closer to the elevator than the DEA spots. So I called the U.S. Attorney's office. I knew the U.S. Attorney. I said, listen, here's the deal. I have him doing an assault on camera. I need him to call me and apologize. And the U.S. Attorney said, well, I don't know. He's sort of a hard-ass guy. I don't know if he'll do that. And I said, here is the deal. If he doesn't call me by 5 o'clock tonight, I am taking that video to the state attorney's office tomorrow. He will be charged with assault, will probably be fired, and possibly could be jailed. And he said, okay, I'll try what I, so like at 2 minutes to 5, the guy called me to apologize. Now, it was not the most heartfelt apology I have ever received, but nonetheless, he did apologize to me, but I couldn't use the video. It had no relevance in the story.
Oh my goodness, that is crazy.
So
you've gone through a lot.
Yeah.
Now I want to get in your business because you're in Florida.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
listen, all the crazies are in Florida.
I hear y'all are completely just, what is COVID? That doesn't exist here. That's what I'm being told.
Know. Yeah, I know. Well, but wait a second. You're in Dallas. Come on.
I know. I didn't know you were going to turn it on me. I thought you were going to at least let me place at least most of the blame on Florida.
Hey,
but yes,
you guys run, hand in glove with us for craziness, right?
We do. We're actually really crazy in Texas. So
yeah.
So we're neck and neck. But
yeah.
But you've got Tiger King and Carole Baskin. So we can't top that.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, they're doing a follow-up to Tiger King. They interviewed me for 2 hours about that because I spent 2 days with Joe Exotic and did an investigation of Carole and Big Cat Rescue, which I do not like at all. One of the things that I learned in doing the elephant documentary is that true sanctuaries don't let the public in to see the animals. They try to recreate as much of a natural habitat as possible and let the animals roam wild. Carole, on the other hand, raises money through the cats she has at Big Cat Rescue, as she asks people for donations as they come in and they can see the cats and all that. And I have some real questions about her husband and how he disappeared. It just doesn't pass the smell test. Now, Joe Exotic is nuts too. I think.
No, really?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. So Joe is crazy. Carole is crazy. And if I had to place a bet, I would say her husband came to an undue end and somehow ended up with the cats.
Just like we all were thinking, like we're like, that don't sound right.
Yeah, but it's his disappearance. I mean, and there are things that are forged and in the will and all that. It just, and Carole admits that she met her husband when she was working, I think she said as a hooker on Nebraska Avenue. She didn't have the best character. Maybe I shouldn't say hooker, but she did not have the best character.
So how was it? Because you were obviously, you're very skilled at what you do. Joe is a little out there.
a lot out
Carole
there.
is a little out there. So just like body language and just facial expressions when interviewing them, what was your take on the entire situation? Because it was definitely he said, she said. It was just a lot. It's a lot of layers there.
Yeah, well, Joe's. I didn't go to Oklahoma to see his facility, but I've seen pictures of it, and that didn't look like the best facility to me in the world either. I mean,
Hmm.
and Joe was just nuts, but had this vendetta against Carol because of an issue where she made him change his name and all, and he was out to get her. Did he actually hire a hitman? I don't know. I honestly, I don't. I mean, I he's crazy as a loon, just absolutely crazy. But um, uh, did did he hire a hitman? I'm not sure that he really did or knew what he was doing. He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer,
Oh my goodness.
you
This is
know.
this is I mean, I just would have liked to have been a fly on the wall. I watched the entire series probably in a matter of 2 days because
Right.
I just couldn't believe these type of people existed.
Well,
or
it's
like
it.
it's fascinating
Well, it's like a train wreck. You know, you can't turn away from it. You know,
at all.
he showed up at the TV station the first day that I met him in a tattered hat, a dirty shirt, and had an entourage of women, of crazed women with him. It was just it was weird when the receptionist called me up to the front there. My phone rings in the newsroom. She goes, Mike, you have a guest here with a bunch of people, and I could tell by her voice. I said, Connie, what's wrong? She said, oh, you'll see.
I wish I were a fly on the wall for that. That
Yeah.
is amazing. Oh my gosh. Mike, you have so many stories. Like, do you do Clubhouse at all? Have you gotten
I,
into
I
Clubhouse
don't
app?
I don't know Clubhouse.
Oh my gosh, I've got to get you on Clubhouse
Okay.
because this would be so they have like these rooms and you can theme the rooms and people can kind of come in and sit. It's almost like virtual panels, virtual Q and
Wow.
A's, and people from all over the world can come into the room and hear whatever topic you're presenting. So there's like a lot of business stuff. There's fashion rooms, creative rooms, but for me, I'm like I meet so many amazing people like yourself where I'm like I would open this up in Clubhouse and we could just do a whole Tiger King room and be like, I have an actual investigative journalist who
Wow.
actually got to meet them in person.
I will look into it. That's very cool. That's
Yeah, because I've got to know more. Like this I'm and more of your stories because this is fascinating stuff.
well.
Just incredible.
Let me give a quick plug. Yeah, I have a book out called "Bad News for You is Good News for Me." It's also on Audible. I finished. It was a bear to I've read thousands of my scripts over the years. I was in the business 50 years, but reading a 232-page book out loud
Mm,
is really tough. Thank God for editing. You know,
right,
makes me
right.
sound articulate. But personally, I would get the Audible because it's me telling the stories like I'm talking to you. But
Oh, that would be great. I'm not an
it,
Audible person, but you're very animated and I would be able to follow along and probably
yeah,
laugh. So
uh,
I would definitely
yeah.
get the Audible.
Bad news for you is good news for me. It's on Amazon or on Audible by Mike Deeson. So that's my quick plug.
So tell me a little bit, what's it about?
Well, there's a chapter on executions. There's a chapter on presidents that I've met and covered. There's a chapter on hurricanes. We've had a couple of those here in Florida. There's a chapter on tragedies in space because we have the Space Coast here in Florida. There's a chapter on some of the more unique people that I've met. I just got these goofy stories about people. Let me tell you one about Larry King because he just died, and he was just a great guy. In the 2000 Florida Convention for President, it's an open nomination, and the one that obviously George W. Bush won. But every presidential candidate came to Orlando for the state convention. I mean, it was big time, and all the networks were covering it and all of that. And so we wanted to do an interview with King, and his people said, well, his time is very tight. I don't know whether we can fit you in. All of a sudden, they called us and said, if you can get over here in the next 15 minutes to his hotel room, we can give you the interview. So I walk in, and there's King with his suspenders, as he always wore,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got no tie on and just a white shirt, and he's got no shoes on. He's barefoot, and and King goes, "Fellas," that's how he talks. And he called everybody fellas. He goes, "Fellas, if you promise not to shoot my feet, because my feet are killing me, you can have all the time you want." So we're talking to King. He's telling great stories. He was just wonderful. And 10 minutes is up, and his handler comes in, and she points to her watch. And he sees this out of the corner of his eye. He goes, "Nope, I made a deal with these fellas. Are not shooting my feet so they can take their time." And then she was really irritated. And then he went, "Go on, let's keep going. This is fun." So, sometimes the big stars are among the nicest. It's just their handlers that get in the way, to keep people away from them.
I've told people that myself, I'm not as decorated as you. I cover fashion. I still cover fashion for many publications. And sometimes when I get the interview and I get the subject in front of me, I'm like, man, they're really cool. But dealing with your publicist, and I'm a publicist, but dealing with your publicist and your team and your manager and your agent, man, they really make you look like you're the asshole. But you're not. You're actually cool.
They're some of the nicest people in the world are major stars. I mean, now there are some that are just they forget that they're just normal people, that they put their pants on one leg at a time. But most of the big stars that I've encountered, and the politicians, are really nice people.
Yeah.
So.
But this book seems super juicy. I wish all journalists or investigative journalists would do something similar to this, because I feel like there's so much that doesn't make it onto the big screen or make it onto the TV screen. And you guys you've interviewed so many fascinating people where I love a good story. So right. I'm sitting here feeling like, Mike, I know you have more. Like I could talk to you forever,
Yeah, I have tons. Let me tell you one more about Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia.
Oh, yes. Let's do it.
In Star Wars. Okay. When Star Wars came out in 1977, I was working in Norfolk, Virginia for the NBC affiliate. And I among the things I did was anchor the noon newscast, which was an hour. And their idea was they wanted it, because we were an NBC affiliate, to be sort of like the Today Show, where we did news, but we did interviews and all that. And we used to do interviews with stars that were in movies. And back in those days, they didn't do the satellite tour like they do today. You actually flew out to Los Angeles or New York or wherever to do the interviews. So I would rarely pay attention to what I was going out for till I got on the plane, because I had a long flight to Los Angeles from Norfolk, Virginia. And I get on the plane, and 20th Century Fox paid for the plane ticket out there, and they insisted you fly first class, which was pretty cool. So I get on, and the first thing they do is give me a Bloody Mary. It was in the morning, and a Time magazine. And on the cover of Time magazine is Star Wars. And I go, Star Wars, where the hell have I heard about this before? And I go to my press kit, and I say, oh my goodness, I'm going out to do Star Wars. And we talked to Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher, I'm doing the interview with her. She's wearing a black pantsuit, and the zipper is coming down on the black pantsuit, and I'm seeing her underwear. Gosh. When we finished the interview, they only give you 5 minutes. This was back in the film days. And then they did the cutaways, and I said to her, look, I don't know if I was making sense or not, but I've got to tell you, for the next guy, your zipper is wide open, and I've been staring at your underwear throughout the whole interview. Well, she just laughed. She said, oh, we should have talked about that. And she just goes, you are the funniest interviewer I've ever had. I love you, blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking, this is pretty cool. Princess Leia thinks I'm really cool. Years later, I read in a book, she was so high on cocaine during those interviews.
Oh, goodness.
So it wasn't me. I wanted to think it was me, but it was the cocaine. But that
Mike, that is hilarious.
yeah.
And RIP to Carrie Fisher. She was
Yeah.
amazing.
She was
amazing actress.
she was very, very cool. So yeah, but that's in there. I mean, just like I say, I've been blessed with a wonderful career. I never worked a day in my life. Still don't. Just did things that I truly, truly enjoyed, and that's what I'm still doing. You know.
Well, I'm happy to support you. I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be so fascinated after this. So, definitely grab the book off of Amazon. It'll be linked in the caption. Visit MikeDeeson.com. That'll also be linked in the caption. And Mike, I already have our follow-ups to this. So we're going to do one specifically just on Tiger King, because that's just amazing. And then we'll do another one. I want your take on bloggers.
Okay, fair enough.
Bloggers who claim to be journalists. Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
I think that will be super juicy.
Yeah.
I want your take on that.
Okay,
so,
and I got some good presidential stories too.
Yeah, we got to get into the presidential ones, but we'll definitely chat offline, because I think that, especially in light of your book as well, that maybe podcasts, but with Clubhouse kind of being the new audio social media app, I think combining that too. I want more people to hear this. So
well, thanks. Well, as you
figure it
see,
out.
as I told you, I do not have problems talking.
You've been the best. Like I've been so entertained. You have no idea. I'm like, oh, we got to hurry up and edit this one and get this one out, because everybody, they go on their morning runs and they listen, and they're doing their makeup, and so this is one where I can easily see people just being invested. So thank you so much for
thank you. I wish you continued success.
Thank you.
You're a really good interviewer. I love your laugh.
Coming from you.
No, that's
take
great.
my bio and say the Mike Deeson said.
And I love you. I love your laugh. You have a really infectious laugh that makes me happy. It makes me smile talking to you, Leah.
Thank you. Well, this entire interview, I've been smiling and laughing throughout. And like I said, you will be a friend of the podcast. We will definitely have you back, because we have to hear more of these stories and your very colorful career, I would like to call it. And just thank you once again. Is there anything else you want the audience to know before we close out?
No, here's my one suggestion that I tell everybody. They say, you have any advice? I always say, find what you love to do and get paid for it, and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's what I do.
Yay. And there you have it, you guys. So you know what to do. Any words for Mike, you can hit me up, Leah at think3media.com. You're going to want to subscribe to this podcast. Share this one out. This one was like, I felt like I was just sitting at your feet like a little kid, like, tell me more. Share, rate, and review. We will have Mike back. So you're going to have to stay tuned, because if we open up a Clubhouse room or we do another podcast episode, you're going to want to be tuned in. So follow us on social media at PR Yourself Podcast, or hit us up online, pryourselfwithleahfrazier.com. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and until next time.